There are 3 things that I want to accomplish in this video. Number 1, I want to bust my stash. Number 2 is I want to test out some yarns I've never used before. And the third thing I want to accomplish today is just to catch up on my requests lists. It is not uncommon for my nibblings, my sisters, the people in my life to just make small requests of me every now and then. And I am more than happy to meet those requests. I love to crochet, and I love even more being able to share that with the people in my life. But the thing is, over the course of the last couple of months, I just haven't had the time to do any of those small, usually quick projects. So we are playing catch up today. To get us started off, I have picked out these 4 yarns. Number 1 is the, what's this one called? Lion Brand Velux yarn. Number 2 is the Yarnspirations Karen Baby Cakes. Number 3 is the Lion Brand Mandala yarn. Observe. And then number 4 is this shit. If you haven't seen my original video where I tried out this yarn for the first time, I will link it in the description. But yeah, spoiler alert, I did not have a fun time. There are so many other yarns that I could be using and may use throughout this video, but we're going to start with these ones. These 3 in particular, these fall into the category of yarns I've never used before. This stuff here, I have used once. It was genuinely, and it was a pretty awful experience. I have never been tested so much by a yarn in my entire crocheting career. I honestly would rate it maybe the worst yarn I've ever worked with, and I used faux fur not that long ago, and I absolutely loathed that. But yeah, this one I think takes the cake. That pun would have worked better with this yarn. But anyway, so with this one, I honestly do not have the patience to make granny squares with it. That was going to be what I did with it originally. I was going to crochet the squares and then use them up in a project I had in mind, but I can't. Like, I'm just going to level with you guys. I can't do that to myself. So what I'm thinking I'll do with this one is just make a granny stitch blanket, because circling back to those requests that I was talking about, my youngest niece has been asking me for doll things, that is like doll clothes, doll accessories, pillows, blankets, all that sort of thing she can use in her role play with her dolls, or her babies as she calls them. And one of the things that she really likes to use is a granny stitch blanket I made her out of my leftover chunky yarns. Oh, this was several months ago at this point, but she really likes that blanket. So I thought I would turn this one into just one big granny stitch blanket, and it will be whatever size this stuff makes. So at least I have a use for that awful stuff. That's that taken care of. I don't have to worry about it anymore. And once it's crocheted, I won't even have to look at it anymore. With the rest, the Velux yarn is going to be at least one hair scrunchie, because my older niece has requested a couple of those. So I thought that would be a good place to start to test this yarn out. With the Mandala yarn, I'm not going to be able to use up all of it, but some of the colors match a project I'm working on. It's kind of a memorial project. It's for my grandpa. We are making a blanket, a quilt out of some of his old clothes, and we're pairing it, well, my mum and I are working on it. We're pairing it on my part with crochet squares and on my mum's part with knit squares. So I needed some yarns that matched the clothing that we're using. And this, the darker blue and the burgundy color, which is like at the front of the skein here, they match a couple of his funny shirts that he has. So I'm going to make at least a couple of granny squares from that. And then this one, I'm not sure what I'm going to make with it yet. Chances are it'll probably end up as doll clothes, but I don't know. And then there's just a bunch of other requests I need to get through. But this is going to be a casual, laid-back video. We're just going to be making lots of small little projects, and I'm just going to give you my thoughts on some yarns, the ones that I haven't used specifically, along the way. I'm going to start off with the easiest project, and that is going to be to make a couple of granny squares from the Mandala yarn. I don't think I looked at the label. What actually is this yarn? Is it just like 100% acrylic? Let's see. Where is that information? 100% acrylic yarn. Okay. So even though I haven't used this specific yarn before, I mean, it is acrylic. So it's nothing too fancy. And also something I should have checked while I had the label was what size hook I need. And we already know what size squares we need for this quilt, so I'm just going to make a square that will match those measurements. I feel like I have used the granny stitch so much the last few weeks. And when I first started crocheting, all I really made was amigurumi, and I did that for the first few years. I made nothing else. And I was never really interested in granny squares. And obviously you can use the granny stitch for purposes other than granny squares, but that is what I associate them most with. But just, I don't know, it's been the last probably year or so, I've just really been drawn towards the granny stitch and making things out of squares and hexagons too. I've made a few granny hexagon cardigans. So yeah, I don't know what switch got flipped in my brain, but I've completely changed my outlook towards the granny stitch and granny squares. And here we go, square one, all finished. And that's one thing I do love about granny squares. They whip up nice and quick. Well, if you're only doing a couple of rounds, that is. So that is my first square. And first impressions of this yarn is that it's really lovely to work with. It sort of just glides through the hook nicely, which not all acrylic yarns do that, but also it's nice and soft. I appreciate a good soft acrylic yarn, and it makes me optimistic as well, because I just remembered, like, this is called Lion Brand Mandala yarn, and let me go grab it. I actually purchased a few skeins of this for myself a while ago. This was intended to be just a personal project. I wanted to make a top or a jacket out of it, and feeling how soft this yarn is, it does make me hope that this would make a really comfortable top to wear. But for now, I want to make myself a couple more squares. I'm going to use up the burgundy color, but then that sort of transitions into this red. That color will also work with the fabrics we're using for the blanket, but the colors that follow, the pink, there's sort of a light purple in there, and even the lighter shades of blue, they're not going to match as well. So I'm going to get as many squares as I can from this first section, and then what I'm going to do with the rest, I don't know at this stage, but we can figure that out later. And square two can now join the ranks. Looking at the red yarn that I have left on this cake, I'm not sure I'm going to get a full granny square out of it. And as I said earlier, I don't want the pink as part of my blanket. So I think I'm going to leave that there for now, and I might crochet myself a square off cam. And if I get enough yarn, I'll use it. If I don't, I'll just end up frogging it. So that can be done another day. I was considering starting on the granny stitch blanket for my niece next, but I know I said before how much I've been enjoying working with the granny stitch, but it's not the only thing that I want to be doing. So I think I'm going to give that one a break for now and instead start on the, what's this, Velux yarn. And with that, I'm probably going to make a few things, but what I want to start off with is a scrunchie for my niece, because that was one of her requests a few weeks ago, whenever it was. I don't know, I've completely lost track of time. So first thing I need to know is what size hook I need to be working with, and we need a 5mm hook. Where is my 5mm hook? Right here. Just going off feel, I don't know if this is a yarn that I'm going to enjoy working with. It's got that, it's a sensation I don't really know how to describe. I felt it in other yarns. It's almost slippery but staticky at the same time. Yeah, I really wish I had one word to describe it, but I can't think of one at the moment. And all I'm going to do for this project is single crochet my way around the outside of the hair tie, and then probably do a few rounds using double crochet. I don't need to make this complex, and if she wants something a little bit different, well, this is how much yarn I've got to use up, so I can make another scrunchie or two, I think. Here I was at the start of this scrunchie project, you know, thinking I might do 3, 4, maybe even 5 rounds. I did 2, and I think that's going to be more than enough, because let's have a look. Let's test it out. You probably don't get the full effect in my hair, but I know with my niece, she is going to, you know, double it up. And like that's more than enough. One thing I discovered about this yarn that I am certainly no fan of is that it's a shedder. I don't like that. It's certainly a feature that makes me not want to use it. I've made some good... I don't know if the camera caught that, but the sheds just went everywhere then. I wasn't just staring off into the distance for no reason. But yeah, good progress. That's one request I can check off my list. I've got my granny squares. At this stage, I still don't know really what I want to do with this. I was tossing up the idea of making a granny hexagon cardigan for my youngest niece. She's seen me wear my ones and she really wants one of her own, but I don't think there will be enough of this yarn to create an entire one. That's not to say I can't do it. I do have other yarns that I can use. I just don't think I'm going to get, you know, the full-size cardigan out of this. So I'll have to think of something else I can do with that one. And while the brain is percolating that, I'm going to start with this. I'm not looking forward to crocheting with this. I think it's just lingering trauma from the first time I did so. But at least in this instance, I'm not going to be trying to get the proper granny squares out of it. I don't need to worry about maintaining a specific color for each round. I'm just going to be, you know, crocheting a square, just keep expanding it until I'm done. Yeah, that first time around, I know I didn't exactly help in that previous video because I did stick to the 5.5mm hook, but I had a reason for that, and that was I wanted to make a specific project out of those squares for which I needed a 5.5mm hook, so that's why I stuck to my guns on that one. With this one, my original intent was to, you know, play around with hook size, see if that worked better in like procuring the granny square, but I honestly don't have the patience for it. Like, nope, can't be bothered with that. I may as well put it to good use, and that good use is going to be a blanket for my niece's dolls. To level with you guys here, it's almost a shame that I can't be asked faffing about with the granny squares, because I did have a project idea in mind for them, and I do really like the colours, like the blues, the purples. It's just, like I said before, my patience is razor thin at the moment. The first time I crocheted with this, I think that was one of the few times that I've genuinely wanted to rage quit crocheting. And I just don't want to deal with that at the moment. Nope. Not for me right now. Well, I finally finished up the granny stitch blanket that I was making out of that horrendous Red Heart yarn. It might be a little bit dirty because my niece has already seen it and she's been playing with it, so it's been sat on the floor and being used as a picnic blanket, so it's picked up all sorts of, you know, fluff and dust. But now that's done, I want to move on to probably not the final project of this video, but the final yarn that I have never used before, and that is the baby cakes. I think I said at the start of this video I was considering doing a granny hexagon cardigan for my niece out of this, but I was worried that there wouldn't be enough yarn. Well, my niece has put her foot down. She wants a granny hexagon cardigan, and as I have said before on this channel, who am I to say no to a 3-year-old? So if this doesn't work out, I would just like to go on record as saying, I told you so. Am I being petty to a 3-year-old? Yes, but I think I'm entitled to it. But to try and help it actually work out, I'm going to pair this with some leftover white yarn that I have. And I'm hoping if I pop maybe 1 or 2 white rounds between the coloured rounds, that's going to, you know, spread this yarn out a bit, and that way I may get a full granny hexagon cardigan out of it, which means there is more granny stitches in my future. I've been, aside from this, I've been doing granny squares, I've been doing other granny hexagon cardigans. I have used the granny stitch so much in the last several weeks. So I honestly think it's been more in these last several weeks combined than I have in my entire previous crochet career. But what does that matter? I am enjoying it. That's the main thing. Well, for the most part, I didn't really enjoy working with that Red Heart yarn, but outside of that, I've been enjoying it. So we're going to start off with a, let me see what hook size I need. 5mm hook. Where did I put my 5mm? Here we go. Small granny hexagon cardigan complete, or well, it's complete enough for this video. I do still need to add the ribbing around the outside, but that can be done at a later date. But now that I have finished that, it means I have crocheted with all 4 yarns that I showed you at the start. And while I do want to give you my thoughts on each of those, although with some of them you probably already know what those thoughts are going to be, but because I started this video in advance of when it's scheduled to release, I do want to do a little bit more crocheting. I would like to use up some more of these 2 yarns, but there's also some other, you know, spare skeins I have lying around that I would like to de-stash as well. So that's what we're going to do over the next few days, and then I will bring you back, show you everything I managed to crochet in that period of time, and I will also give you my thoughts on the yarns. Well, I've been crocheting on and off for a few weeks, and I finally reached the point where I have to stop and actually edit this video. So far, I have used up, or at the very least, mostly used, all of the yarns that I showed you at the start of the video. Here's the labels of a couple of them. Here's the Mandala one, and here is the velvet one. And I'll go through my thoughts in a moment, but I just wanted to show you what I actually made in this time period. There was the granny hexie cardi for my niece, so there was that. I did the blanket for her as well. This kid is getting spoiled. But I also ended up making a couple of scrunchies, a few granny squares for the memorial blanket that my mum and I are working on for my grandpa. I actually made a couple more of these, but I think they fell down behind my desk where I cannot reach them at the moment. I'll have to move several things out of the way before I can actually do that. But you're not missing out on anything. They literally look like like this. And then I also made a little skirt for my niece's dolls. That is the start of her crochet doll clothes collection. I also put in a little bit of work on my forever blanket, which was a video I put out a couple of weeks ago at this point. So yeah, if you're interested in that, I will link it down in the description. But I'm going to use the remaining Mandala yarn up on that. And I also started on making a loofah. But funny thing, this ended up buried under the pile of stuff that was on my floor, and I kind of forgot about it. So that remains unfinished as of now, but I will complete it later on at some point. It's not difficult. I'm literally going around and doing double crochet. So it's one of those patterns it's easy but tedious. So that will get finished later on. And now that you've seen all those projects, I suppose it's time to get to the point of this video, which was my thoughts on all of these yarns the yarns that I've never really used before. As some of you may know, I have in fact used the Red Heart Granny Square yarn before. I don't think I need to reiterate my opinion. I think it was clear throughout this video and very clear in the original video I made where I used it for the first time. I don't like this yarn. It's just one of those acrylic yarns that is just, it feels like cheap is the only word I can use to describe it. Like Red Heart is not a brand I see much on physical shelves in Australia. We can purchase it online, but in the craft stores that I go to, they do not have a big selection of Red Heart yarns available. But from my understanding of things I have seen online, things people have said, I think Red Heart is sort of a budget yarn in America. Please correct me if I'm wrong on that, but that is definitely the feel I get from using this yarn. And now that I have crocheted with the second skein of it that I have, I'm not purchasing Red Heart yarn again. Perhaps there are other yarn lines within this brand that are okay. You will all have to let me know your thoughts on that. But yeah, for me, Red Heart is not a yarn that I really want to use after the couple of experiences that I've had with it. But it's done now. I've used it and it's going to a good cause. That good cause being my niece's doll accessory collection. Next up, let's discuss which one should we go with? Let's go with the baby cakes. This one was actually really enjoyable to work with. I think, if I'm remembering correctly, this one was just, 100% acrylic too. Oh no, this one wasn't. Maybe it was the Mandala one I was thinking of. This one was actually 82% acrylic and 18% nylon. And I found this one it just had a flexibility, a pliability to it that I don't usually see in the 100% acrylic yarns. And it did make me wonder if using this in some sort of, clothing item would make it drape really nicely. So I'm considering, when I can find it on sale, getting some more baby cakes and just trying to make some sort of cardi or other top from it, just to see what it's like in that specific context. If you yourself have made any clothing, any tops with the Karen baby cakes, please let me know what your experience was, because while I would like to try it for myself, it's also one of those things where I don't want to go and spend a bunch of money for something that's just not going to work out very well. So if I have your experience to go off, that may help me. So yeah, I did enjoy working with this yarn. With that I made the granny hexagon cardi, and while I did mention I'm interested in how it would drape and sit just 30 seconds ago, I can't really tell from this cardi here because I paired it with I don't know if I can reach this. I paired it with this old acrylic yarn I have, and I know for certain that that certainly doesn't have those nice draping qualities that I want. If I just used the baby cakes alone, things would have been different, but no, I had to pair it with something else, otherwise I wouldn't have had enough of this to complete the entire project. But outside of that, lovely yarn to work with. I would definitely purchase this again for specific projects that require it. So you can go over there with the Red Heart label. Next up we have the Mandala yarn, and I'm pretty sure this one was the 100% acrylic, yep, 100% acrylic yarn. I think with the acrylic yarns that I've used, there is a spectrum of them. On one end, you have the really, just let's say the nasty stuff, the cheap and nasty stuff, which I think this one sits on that end of the spectrum. But then on the other end of the spectrum, you have some higher quality stuff. And to me, this sits maybe about 2/3 up that spectrum. It felt decent. It was easy to work with. It wasn't the best acrylic yarn that I've ever got my hands on, but it was far from the worst. And I think I showed you guys that I had a few cakes of, you know, different Mandala yarn that I was looking forward to using. And having done even just these few squares, it really does make me optimistic for that project, because they feel nice, they were easy to work with. So I am really looking forward to that project, and hoping because the labels were a bit different, I'm hoping that's the only change that has been made. Like Lion Brand updated their labels and they haven't changed like the yarn itself. But the only way I'm really going to know that is if I actually crochet with that stuff on my shelf. And then the last yarn that I wanted to use up in this video was the Velux yarn. I personally didn't enjoy this yarn very much. It's just the texture is not really for me. The funny thing was, when I originally purchased just a skein of this yarn, I wanted to see what it was like, because I had planned to make a nice like jacket out of it, and I was going to try and pair it with my sort of newly reawakened interest in sewing and, you know, line it, try and make it look a little bit fancy. But having used this to crochet just one scrunchie and a doll skirt, I think I can confidently say that I would not enjoy the experience of making an entire jacket out of this stuff. So I'm giving 2 thumbs up to Parsley for only purchasing one skein to test out and not going ahead and buying the, you know, 6 to 8 that I was originally going to make an entire jacket. Dodged a bullet there. But I'm still left with this yarn, and honestly, I think I'm just going to use it to continue crocheting like doll clothes for my niece. And outside of those 4 yarns that I explicitly wanted to try in this video, the remaining little projects I did, like the scrunchie, a couple of granny squares, the loofah, I just made those using yarns that were already in my stash, yarns that you guys have seen me use before. So there's not much point going over my thoughts on yarns that I use on the daily, is there? I was trying to think of a way to neatly segue into the hookup there, but nothing came to mind. So anyway, it's time for... And today's featured creator on the hookup is Psalm Tree, and she says, I've been crocheting since 2022 and have found a love for it. It's been amazing to see my skill grow and to see all of my friends starting to crochet too. You'll have to let me know how you did that, because I've been trying to get some of the people in my life into crochet, but I haven't had much success. So tell me your secrets. Just to clarify, that is a joke. I'm not trying to force anyone to do a hobby that they don't want to do. But anyway, if you would like to check out all of Psalm Tree's links, they will be down in the description, and so will a link to the hookup form if you would like to apply for yourself. And that is all I really have for you guys today. What I'm really interested to know at the end of this video is, have you used any of these yarns? And what are your thoughts on them? But in particular, have you made anything from the baby cakes? The Lion Brand, no, Lion Brand is the other one. This one is the Yarnspirations Karen baby cakes, or the Lion Brand Mandala yarn, because those are the 2 that I am most interested in using going forward. So yeah, I would really like to hear from other people and what their experiences were. Thank you all for watching this one. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. Like the video if you enjoyed it, share it if you think it's worth sharing, and I will see you in the next one.